What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys 7 different fighters that I believe could be UFC champions in the future. Now, this isn't just going to be prospects. This is going to be just guys in the UFC that have not held a title before that I think have a very good chance to do so in the future. So we have a lot of guys to get through, so let's just get right into it. So this was actually a really hard list to make, and I'm going to give you guys a couple of honorable mentions before we get into the full complete list. So these are guys that I think have a chance at holding UFC gold in the future, but for different reasons may not get there. Starting it off, we have Merab Dvalishvili. We know what Merab's about. We know he's one of the best fighters in the bantamweight division, but I just don't think he's in the good books with the UFC anymore. I think he made a lot of poor decisions. Not wanting to fight Aljo was definitely one of them. And yeah, I just don't think he's going to get close to a belt. And there's only so many fights you can have outside of a title fight before someone comes and takes your lights out. So yeah, Merab, not on the list, but definitely an honorable mention because he has the talent. Number 2, Jack Della Maddalena, another guy, very talented, but I have 2 guys in his division on this list, and for those reasons, I just don't know if he's going to get the chance at the belt. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but yeah, I couldn't really put him on this list for those reasons. Another guy, Dricus du Plessis. I think he's a very talented fighter. I think middleweight's going to start getting a lot tougher in the next couple of years, and you'll see why on my list. But yeah, I think du Plessis has all the skills to be a UFC champion. I just don't think if he's also in the good books with the UFC, I think he'd have to do a lot of work to get there, especially if Adesanya's not holding that belt either. I think it's going to be even tougher for him to get in that picture. And lastly, we have Bo Nickal, a super young prospect, but I'm really high on Bo Nickal. I mean, I think a lot of people are. I think if he can fix up his striking, maybe we could actually see him in a title picture in a few years. I think we will, but he's just a little too young right now for me to put on this list. Not enough experience and no real tough tests yet. So yeah, he's an honorable mention because I think there's a really good chance he actually does become a champion, but just doesn't have the resume that some of these other guys have. So with the honorable mentions out of the way, let's get into the actual top 7. And the first name on this list is going to be Tom Aspinall. And I put Aspinall here because I think he is one of the biggest threats in the heavyweight division. I think he's very well-rounded, really good on the ground, super quick and light on the feet, moves like a middleweight on the feet, and honestly just a great fighter. And coming off that performance against Marcin Tybura, I think a lot of people expected him to win that, and that wasn't really a proper test, but now, in his upcoming fight, he has a real test in front of him, and it's actually for an interim championship against Sergey Pavlovich. So I think here is where we'll really be able to gauge the type of fighter that Tom Aspinall is and what level he can achieve. But I really do think this guy is championship material. I think his well-roundedness can get him really far in this division. He's able to move a lot quicker than a lot of these guys at heavyweight, so that's always going to help. But we do have to see what happens against a guy like Pavlovich, who's another freak of nature and could have been on this list, but I decided to go with Aspinall. It is an interim championship, so I would like to see him face the actual champion in John Jones, but I'm not 100% sure we're ever going to get to see that fight. But yeah, without John Jones in the picture, I think this guy will definitely hold a belt in the heavyweight division at some point. At number 6, we have Walmart Conor McGregor. I mean Ian Garry. Ian Garry, number 6. So, Ian Garry, another very talented fighter, likes to run his mouth, thinks he's like another certain Irishman, but all of that aside, he's an incredible fighter. I mean, he's a great kickboxer. We've seen what he started to do to some of these ranked opponents he's been fighting. D-Rod, crunched. Neil Magny, embarrassed Neil Magny. That was really bad. 30-24, I think, was one of the scorecards. That's absolutely brutal. And I think he's going to keep going up from here. The problem he faces here is welterweight's a super stacked division. And in a division that has a lot of wrestlers too, it's tough to be a guy like Ian Garry, who's really known for striking. If he can develop a really solid ground game, I don't see why we can't see him as a UFC champion in the future. But he's got the charisma for it. He is going to bring eyeballs. He knows how to run his mouth. I think it's all a great mix to be a UFC champion. The biggest worry, like I said, was the fact that he might lack some of the wrestling that some of these other guys in the division might have, but who knows? If he could fix that, he's got the star power enough to rise him up there, and hopefully he could see himself in a title fight. All right, number 5 on this list, probably the least accomplished out of the bunch on the list, but definitely not the least impressive, and that is Umar Tomayd. Umar, this guy is an absolute beast. And however good you thought Khabib was, however good you think his brother Usman is, Umar is just, he's on another level. Like, his striking is excellent, combined with his wrestling, his sambo. He's just going to be such a problem for so many guys in the bantamweight division. We were robbed of that fight with Corey Sandhagen. That would have been a great fight to see where Umar's at in his development and in his career. But yeah, it looks like we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to see him get a ranked opponent. I hope this happens soon. Like, I wouldn't even mind them retrying to book the Corey Sandhagen fight, but I think after Corey beat Font, he's probably not going to be wanting that Umar fight too much, and I don't blame him. Umar Tomayd, he's a super well-rounded fighter. I think his biggest challenges in the division are going to be against taller guys like Corey, like Sean, because he is going to be short. That's something that Khabib didn't really have to face when he was at lightweight. He wasn't really shorter than too many guys, so the height difference wasn't too much of an issue that impacted a lot of his fights. That may be something we see with Umar a bit. Wow, I'm saying Usman. Nope, Umar. Yeah, that's going to be something we might see with Umar a little bit, but ultimately, I don't think it's going to cause him too much problems, to be honest. I think we will see Umar in a championship picture. Maybe not too soon. I think the UFC likes Sean O'Malley sitting at the top, and I think we're going to see that for a while, but eventually you're not going to be able to deny Umar his chance, and he will get a chance at that belt, and I really do believe he will win. So yeah, Umar Tomayd, number 5, absolute killer. Moving on to another killer at number 4, a guy that's started to slowly accomplish things and beat super high-level opponents pretty effectively, and that is no one other than Shavkat Rakhmonov. Shavkat, he is the highest ranked welterweight on this list. I know I had Ian Gary, I mentioned JDM before, but I truly believe out of all of those guys, Shavkat still stands the best chance at the belt. I mean, talk about well-rounded. That is what Shavkat Rakhmonov is. He is one of the most well-rounded guys on this list, to be honest. He has the striking, he has the grappling, he has the wrestling, he has the submission threat, he has everything he needs in order to be a champion. Besides the English, I think that may be crucial for him to learn, at least something he can do to relate with the fans more, and I think he can grow his fan base a lot more. But besides that, you can't deny the guy's skills. I mean, look what he did to Jeff Neal. That was a war. I mean, props to Jeff Neal. He held his own. That was a really good fight, but in the end, you could just see Shavkat was just too much for Jeff. I mean, Neal was trying. He was really trying to get that fight to go to the end, but ultimately it just couldn't. And I really hope we see Shavkat fight a higher ranked opponent very soon. I would love to see a fight with Bilal Muhammad. I think that would make sense for both guys. It would cut one guy out, put another guy closer to the belt. I think that's a fight that should be made, but I don't make the rules. He's fighting Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's probably going to beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and looks like we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for him to get his hands on UFC gold. But yeah, I think that's something that could definitely happen in the near future, and I would not be shocked at all. Moving on to number 3 on the list now, and it is no one other than Gabriel Almeida. Gabriel Almeida is the definition of what a freak of nature is. This guy is a scary heavyweight, like a very scary heavyweight. I said Tom Aspinall was fast. Dude, like, this guy's at another level. I mean, Almeida has the insane wrestling ability as well to just destroy guys and maul them on the ground. And he's just so strong. His striking is super slick as well. He understands his range really well and knows how to use it effectively. And like I said, his wrestling is just out of this world. His ground and pound is ferocious. Gabriel Almeida is just everything that I see in a champ. I think this guy, he has the makings of a Charles Oliveira in a way. Brazilian, but he has that excitement factor. Like, when you see Charles Oliveira throw, you get excited. You know that he has a lot behind his punches. And it's the same thing with a guy like Jailton. He's just a super exciting fighter, and I think he makes a perfect champion. Him versus Tom Aspinall is one of my dream fights right now in the UFC. I think that would be an amazing fight, but I think we won't get to see a fight like that for a couple years at least. Wait a bit until both guys are in championship contention, and then we might see that fight. But yeah, nothing bad to say about Jailton Almeida. An absolute beast, and for sure deserved to be on this list. Number 2 on my list now is a guy that has honestly started to become one of my favorite fighters in the entire company, and that's Elia Toria. Elia Toria is just the definition of excitement once again. I mean, look at his performance against Josh Emmett. Look at his performance against Bryce Mitchell. The guy is just exciting, and he's so well-rounded. His striking is so slick. The way he can just roll in and out of punches is exceptional, to be honest. And the way he submitted Bryce Mitchell, a guy who's known for his wrestling, it was remarkable. And that's exactly what you need in a champion. You need a guy that knows how to beat his opponents at their game. And that's exactly what Elia Toria does. He goes in there, he's not afraid, and he gives it his all, and he puts on incredible performances. Obviously, he's got the toughest test out of all these guys, to be honest, as a champion in Alexander Volkanovski. So I don't know if this one is going to happen like very soon, but I think in the next couple of years, if he stays at featherweight, of course, I think it will happen. I will be actually coming out with a video soon, though, on that Topuria Volkanovski matchup, because it looks like it is confirmed for January. Not 100% sure yet, but it looks like that's the case, and I'm super excited for that fight. And yeah, I really do think Topuria does have an actual chance against Volkanovski, but we'll wait for that video to talk about that. This one now, though, Elia Toria, an absolute dog, deserves to be on this list, and I could definitely see holding a UFC title in the future. Lastly, certainly not least, though, we have, of course, Khamzat Chimaev. And this was probably one that you guys were expecting, and rightly so. I mean, this guy definitely deserves to be on this list, and that's why he's number 1. I mean, we just saw his performance against Kamaru Usman. While it was a little lackluster, and I was probably expecting a little bit more from him, considering Usman took the fight on 10 days' notice, he still got the job done, still won, and his wrestling is clearly a threat, and probably some of the best in the entire UFC. And I think that will be what can guide him to a title in the near future. It looks like that he actually may be next in line for a title shot, so he might be the first guy on this list to get a shot, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see to see what happens with that. But yeah, Khamzat Chimaev, one of the biggest stars in the UFC already without the belt. So imagine what would happen once he does get that belt. We could really see insane growth in him, and it all makes sense. I mean, right now at the top of the middleweight division, there's a lot of questions and a lot of opportunity to be taken there with Adesanya out of the picture for the time being. And I really like Khamzat's chances against a guy like Sean Strickland. So yeah, we'll see what he does, but definitely deserves to be number 1 on this list. So there you guys have it. That's it for this video. Those are 7 future champions that I see in the UFC. I want to hear what you guys have to say, though. Am I a little too high on a couple of guys? Maybe not giving enough praise to some? I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say. I think this is an interesting list, an interesting discussion, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. So yeah, thank you for watching another one of these videos. If you guys enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. Helps me out a lot. And stay tuned for more content like this. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.